9 innings winter meetings dish right now to get the scoop from our guy Bob, USA Today's finest, covering this team out in Nashville right now, or covering this winter meetings out in Nashville right now. Bob, great to have you back on. Good to see you. You look well rested at the moment. We'll see how you're doing a few days from now. But let's start with Soto, because you had sent out tweets about the Yankees and Padres being far apart. Does it sound like talks are dead at the moment and other teams could emerge, especially teams that don't get Ohtani, like maybe the Blue Jays?
I mean, they're dead for right now, but, it always happens where someone asks for a lot. The Yankees don't want to give that much. I think the Blue Jays have interest too. But I don't know, who's all interested. I mean, you got to pay this guy $33 million. He's going to walk as a free agent. I don't think there's a, huge value in him. So I don't blame the Yankees for saying, wait a minute now, we're not going to just do a one-year rental. It's not like he was carrying the Padres or anything. I mean, they were underachieved, since he arrived. Not saying it was all his fault, but he was part of the problem.
Are you surprised that there aren't more teams involved on Soto, and that we've gotten to a point in the industry where teams are like, oh, it's only one season of a player and it's 30-something million dollars? Because on the other side, Bob, you always hear, oh, a team doesn't want to get involved on a player over such a lengthy contract, right? You'll hear the same thing from certain teams about Cody Bellinger, where they'll say, I don't want to sign a player for 7-8 years. So if you don't like that and you don't like the 1 year, it's like only 2 to 4 years is how you please every front office and ownership group?
Well, I think, when you look back at like Francisco Lindor, Mookie Betts, both traded 1 year to go, but both teams thought they had a chance to, sign those guys to extensions, and they did. I mean, the Dodgers didn't get anything for Mookie Betts, and Cleveland didn't get that much either for Lindor. A better deal, but I think in this case they know that he's going to test free agent. He's going to want at least $500 million. So are you going to give him, $533 million, because $33 million this year? I just don't think there's a big value on him right now. A year from now, yes. But, when you have to give up players, plus pay the salary, that's a tough ask.
So I know the talk is, okay, he's a Boris client. He's not going to sign an extension. Are any of these trades contingent? Because I know some other trades people have gotten or talked about getting traded, and they talk about an extension before the trade goes through. Are there any chances that teams are able to even talk to Soto about an extension, or is that just a moot point? No, we're not talking.
Yeah, moot point. Usually they won't give anybody even 72 hours to do something. They used to back in the day, but it's very rare now. So I think it's like, yeah, you got him for 1 year. Good luck signing him as a free agent. The one advantage you do, if he plays with the Yankees or Toronto, at least he knows the atmosphere, whether he wants to stay there as a free agent. So you do have a little bit of advantage there, but that's it.
So, Bob, being that it seems like the Yankees are not in on Shohei Ohtani, there's a chance they don't get someone like Juan Soto. I know that they're in on Yamamoto, so are many others, like the Mets and Giants, according to many, including, I think you've talked about the Yamamoto market being insane. Where do you think they go? Is Scott Boras just hanging out, laughing, being like, Cody Bellinger's price is sky high now? Because the Yankees clearly need to upgrade their offense. Their offense was terrible last season. And if they're not going to trade for a big bat like Soto, it's not like there are a ton of bats available on the free agent or trade market.
No, I think they could still, get the Korean center fielder, do that as well. But I think Bellinger falls in the lap. I think if you don't get Soto, they say, you know what, we'll pivot to Bellinger. And I think that the front runner for Yamamoto, he's the opposite of Ohtani. He wants the spotlight. He wants, the fashion, all that kind of stuff. I think it's between the Yankees and Dodgers. I won't eliminate the Mets because they're still in New York, but I can't see him signing anywhere else.
Okay, I'll take you to Shohei Ohtani and where your thoughts are at the moment. I mean, I know it's been difficult for anybody to get that much information, but do you have any ideas, any added research or whispers about when, where, how much, etc.?
I still think he stays in Los Angeles and plays for the Dodgers. I'm not going to rule out the Angels. I won't. San Francisco probably offered the most money, but he wants to hit. He wants to set records. He wants to hit playing in San Francisco. So I think I can't see him pitching Chicago because of the weather. If he wants to pitch again, he does with the rain outs, the rain delays. I know Atlanta's in the mix as well. So is Toronto, obviously. At least they got the dome. But I think he stays in the West Coast. We had too many teams in the Central that have reached out, and they were told, sorry, he wants to stay West Coast. He's not interested in coming your place.
I think it'd be fair to be able to root out the Angels. I think if he would have re-signed with them, they would have probably done it by now. Or he wants to go. He's always been saying he wants to go somewhere to win, doesn't he?
He does, but he's very comfortable there, and they treat him great. He pretty much runs his own show. He tells you, when he's going to play, when he's going to pitch. Hasn't talked to the media since August 9th. I'm not sure how many markets that would play in. So I just think the comfort level. Hey, Trout stayed there, so he could too. I'm not saying they're the favorites, but I wouldn't rule him out. I really wouldn't just because of the comfort level.
Now, it's probably fair to say he's probably the one piece, the one big domino that's holding up the market right now, right? He's the one that a lot of teams are in on who have to kind of wait and see for him to make his decision.
Minnesota too, yeah. I mean, with you got the big bat, and it's a thin market. There's not that many bats out there. So yeah, I think once he's signed, once Yamamoto's signed, then the market moves. But certainly, you don't want to give up a chance to sign Otani, and take somebody else. So yeah, I think once both those guys move, the position player market, if you think about it, is very shallow. So I think that one could take a while to develop, just because there's not that many guys out there. I mean, you got Bellinger, you got Chapman. There's a drop off.
Bob, you've been covering this industry for a while. Have you ever seen anything like this? I'm not talking about the player on the field, but the free agent process that Ohtani has gone through and how mysterious it is and how they've kept everything so closed up. For example, last year, Judge is the big free agent, and many people made the case that, he goes to San Francisco. There's that kind of awkward video that I think was staged so that it showed that, hey, San Francisco's real, Yankees. You better pay a little bit more. And it worked out for him. Ohtani's like the opposite. No one knows anything. No one knows bids. So have you ever seen anything like this? And do you think it's working? Because it seems like from his camp's perspective, if they don't talk much about him and don't put anything out there, then someone like him that we're looking at won't be covered and he won't have to deal with as much publicly. I think there's been actually more intrigue and talk because no one knows anything. And so people just guess and throw random shit out there.
Oh, I agree. I do think it's working. People say people throwing darts out there and guessing at different things. Nobody knows what he's thinking. He was spotted in San Francisco the other day. That was probably the first, news nugget we've seen. But he doesn't need to drum up interest. I mean, how many times you see, agents leaking out, hey, just met with this team, that team. Used to be, hey, you travel to different cities and make sure the media knows about it because everybody wants him. He doesn't need to drum up interest. So I think it's working, and it works perfect for his personality because this guy is just, almost like a recluse. He does not want to be, around a lot of people. He doesn't want anybody to know his business.
Is there a better fit for outside of the Dodgers for Shohei than Toronto? The media market is pretty simple for him. He would be the face of an entire country, which the team would end up making a ton of money on it off field in that sense. And they're really a team that if he goes there, puts them over the top.
No, I agree with you, Eric. I mean, be a great, international signing for everybody. And let's face it, there's pressure. There's pressure on the Dodgers to start winning in the playoffs. There's a lot of pressure in Toronto. They probably underachieved, more than any team in that AL East with all their talent they have. They need to win, and they just got a $300 million, project with the stadium refurbished. They need to sell those luxury tickets. So they need a guy like Ohtani to assure some sellouts and everything else. They got 2 more years left of Biggio and with Chet and Vlad Guerrero, and then they could be gone. So there's a lot of pressure in that Toronto front office to win now.
Hey, Bob, I wanted to get your thoughts on the trade because really that's the only thing that's occurred so far at these winter meetings. It was really kind of before it started, but Jared Kelenic moves on to the Atlanta Braves, gets traded again here. We spoke a lot about this deal earlier in the show. There are a ton of very pissed off Mariners fans right now because it seems like they are cutting payroll left and right. I mean, we joked with Ryan Divish when we spoke to him earlier saying, are the Mariners broke? I'm confused about where they're going as a ball club right now. Like, should they be on that documentary from years back as a team? I know it was mostly with athletes, but is there something we don't know about Seattle and the way that they're constructing things? The thing that stood out to me the most was that they had conversations, according to Ken, earlier this offseason with the Rays about Arozarena and Paredes, and they had to put them on hold because he said that they weren't in a financial spot to take those salaries on. Arozarena's due about $9 million in ARB. That's where the number is projected to settle. Paredes $3 million. So now we're down. We're going from, will the Mariners sign Ohtani for 50 plus to, can they afford $12 million of two starting players?
Yeah, I mean, they've had a bad winter. Remember we had Jerry DePoto saying, hey, we won 54% of our games, so the fan base is already upset by that. They're going ballistic right now. Obviously, they're saving money for something. Could they be saving money for Soto? Possibly. Not Ohtani. Remember now, Ohtani wants to win. When people say, hey, doesn't want to go back to the Angels, they don't win enough. The Mariners have won less than the Angels have. They've been in the playoffs once in 22 years. So Soto could make sense there to save money for him. Otherwise, maybe like Ken said, we're a Rosarina type of deal.
So, Bob, do you have any inkling of a team that might miss out on doing anything? This happens every year. It happens during the season and in the offseason. So, for example, this past trade deadline, Giants ended up doing absolutely nothing. Reds ended up doing absolutely nothing. Both of those teams clearly were burned by that, where you look at the other side, like a team, say like Texas, they've done a lot the last two off seasons. They did a lot at the deadline. I know that doesn't always convert into winning, but it seems like right now we've got about 5 to 7 teams that we're talking a ton about that have a lot of pressure on them from their fan base. When I say pressure, I mean people that pay the money, that need to see something from them. They're not all going to land superstars. So do you see trouble brewing for any of teams like some that we mentioned, the Yankees, the Dodgers, the Giants, the Cubs, etc.?
I think two teams that could jump out is the Cubs. If they don't get Ohtani, I don't think he's going to come there. Yamamoto's not going to come there. If they don't re-sign Bellinger, they could be that team. And it could also be Toronto. If they don't get Ohtani, I don't think Yamamoto's going there. If they don't bring back Chapman and Bellinger, that'll be a huge disappointment. I think someone's got to take San Francisco money. I think he's going to throw up. I think they'll outbid everybody for Ohtani. I don't think they'll go there, but I think they've got so much pressure to do something. Remember now, their fan base is really plummeted here. I think it was 17th in baseball last year, the lowest since the new ballpark was built. They need to get fans back in that ballpark.
If, let's say, Toronto does miss out on that, let's say, and all these other teams that you think are in on the Ohtani sweepstakes and they kind of miss out, what kind of names do you see coming up maybe mid-season as the trade market kind of develops? Are there any big names that you can see getting moved? I know it depends on what teams get out to good starts or not, but guys that are in their last year of deals, is the trade market going to be kind of another hot stove for us in the middle of this year for teams?
It could be. I mean, I think Dylan Cease will definitely be traded, before the winter is out. So I wouldn't count him. I think Glasnow will be traded. But I would think Corbin Burns, he could be a guy to trade down the line. I don't think the Brewers will trade him now. I really don't. I think they're still so upset about Craig Counsell going to their arch rival Cubs that they want to do everything possible to finish ahead of the Cubs. Even if they finish 4th, the Cubs are 5th. They'll be happy with that. So I'm not sure they're ready to wave the white flag on this season. So Burns would be that type of guy.
Hey, I'll follow up on Cease with you, Bob. Are you curious about the direction of the White Sox? And I know, sadly, AJ's not on with us today, but he'll have fun again with Chicago tomorrow. I'm just confused because, okay, here's a new GM. They went through tanking. They did that for a while. They had a short window of winning. It did not last long. They did not get the results that they wanted. It's the weakest division in baseball, no doubt about it, for the last few years, and looks to be the case for the next several years, including teams like, say, Kansas City that are still not in a good spot. Like, where do you think the White Sox are going here? So if they trade Cease, Kratz has mentioned before, like maybe they should look into trading Robert. Then I'm like, okay, well now we're completely restarting again and we're on the 5-year plan after we just did that, it was like a 2-year window of trying, and we had 6 years before that where they weren't.
I think they stop at Cease. I don't think anyone in the world will trade Robert because they're talking about just rebuilding, and like you said, the AL Central is so weak. The last rebuild was a disaster when they had one good season a couple of years ago, ran away with the division, and then got knocked off by Houston in the playoffs. But I think in that division is being so weak, they feel like they can bounce back in 2025. So they need Robert. I think he's definitely there. Cease is, everybody needs starting pitching. It's the time to move him. I don't think they wanted to at the beginning of the offseason, but now that people are so desperate, hey, you're going to get Atlanta a bite, you're going to get the Dodgers a bite, maybe even Baltimore, and one of those three teams is going to. So I think they have no choice with Cease, knowing that you're not going to be competitive this year. But I think they could bounce back a year from now.
Who's the best candidate to do like a prove it contract? If everyone's out there, right now, nothing's really happening. So we're like, oh, well, they need this guy and this guy needs this guy. Who is going to be left player-wise at the end and going, oh, crap, it's February 1st. I guess I need to sign like a 1-year. I don't know what the qualifying offer was, $20 million. So then he'll sign like a 1-year, $22 million. Who do you feel like could be that guy?
I don't know if there'd be a guy that's has to settle for a 1-year deal, but when you talk to different GMs, executives, they think it'll be a race between a Cody Bellinger and a Josh Hader, who is sitting out there February 1st. Bellinger's price tag is very high. Hader wants to become the highest paid reliever in baseball history. So I think both those guys will be long days. I'm not sure about the 1-year guy who has to settle for that. I think some of these guys will learn their lesson. Like maybe could that happen to a guy like Marcus Stroman? Possibly, but I think everybody needs pitching so much that it won't be him. Be interesting, but I do think a Josh Hader and a Bellinger will be out there for a long time.
Well, you said everybody needs to sign pitching. There's one name, former teammate of mine that's been out there is a interesting way to word it. Trevor Bauer. Are there any murmurs? Are there any conversations that you've been hearing out there? Our teams, what's the kind of overall feel? Do you have a pulse on it that people are interested in maybe signing him back into the league?
No, I think people think he's untouchable. I haven't heard one whisper anyone think they're even thinking about this. Remember Roberto Osuna was outstanding closer for the Astros.
Yeah.
He had the domestic violence thing in Toronto. People got upset in Houston. So scouts that see him now say he's better than 90-95% of the relievers in baseball today, but still nobody will sign him. So if they're not going to re-sign a Osuna, I don't think they can go back with Bauer. I don't see it happening.
Okay, with that being said, I mean, this leads me to a team that's dealing with an off-the-field situation, but I'll go to multiple fan questions asking about what they're going to do with the players that are going to be part of the 2024 season, the Tampa Bay Rays, right? Because we don't know what's going to happen with Wander Franco. If I had to guess, though, he's probably not playing next year. So fans asking, what are plans with Glasnow? Now we're seeing people throw Rosarena's name out there in addition to Paredes. Do you think that the Rays take a step back, or it's more just the normal reshuffling that they do? It seems like, according to you, Glasnow will probably be dealt. Do you think they go even further with someone like Brandy, too?
They could, but I think they'll get enough back. I mean, these guys have such a smart front office. I think it's business as usual for those guys. It's amazing they could lose a Wander Franco and still be, a great team. I think people still think they'll win 90 games. I think that's that good of an organization, that deep of an organization. But I'm with you. I don't see him playing next year. We'll see what happens after that. But no, I think that front office is that good. And I think that's what drives teams like the Yankees or Red Sox crazy, that they can spend all this money and still not be nearly as good as the Rays are.
You're right, Bob. I bring it up all the time on this show. There are so many owners that want to be like the Rays in terms of how they operate their budget and what that looks like on the field, and they just cannot figure it out. Okay, so let's finish with this before you run around that massive country of a hotel again. Multiple questions here in the chat right now. Cole and who else here? I'm just looking at him. Cole said, have they said anything about St. Louis going after another starter? Jordan also asking, what do you think about the Cardinals offseason so far? So what do you think of what they've done? And because it was so early, do you see them doing anything else? My concern, Bob, is they talked about how they didn't have swing and miss in their rotation. We saw that before the season started. It played out really poorly for them, especially with the shift restrictions now. They didn't get big swing and miss guys just now with the 3 pitchers. They're good. They can eat innings. Gray was one of the best pitchers in the American League. But are they suddenly a lock to win the division? I don't think so.
No, they should be better. And I love those guys they signed. I mean, they eat innings. They average about 100 innings apiece. Cease, they'd like to have Dylan Cease. I don't see a matchup there. I don't see them having the players that they're going to give up for Cease. Atlanta, Dodgers, Baltimore make a lot more sense. But, they could bring back a guy like a Seth Lugo, a Michael Waka. It's not swing and miss stuff, but just more veterans to help out that rotation.
Bob, we appreciate the time. I know you're busy running around there. Go break some news stories for us. Hopefully it's a busy winter meetings. Hopefully Ohtani doesn't hold it up. Great to see you, and maybe you'll get a few hours of sleep. What do you think, 3 to 4 hours a night?
Max. It depends what time the bar closes, and then what time the GMs get coffee.
I know you're on it. Good to see you, Bob.
Take care, guys. Thanks.
Thank you. Cheers. Bob Nightengale does a great job, obviously, covering this.